These days, elite wingers are worth their weight in gold as the tactical systems employed by the world's biggest managers place a heavier goal and assist burden on them more than players in any other position. That's why top-level wide men command the biggest transfer fees and demand the biggest wages. Talking Mo Salah, Bukayo Saka, Antoine Semenyo and Lamine Yamal. As a result, the value to clubs in finding superstar talent overseas cannot be overstated, and here on Essential Football Transfers, we're doing just that. So in this video, using stats, key data, tactical profiling and high-level insights, we'll be highlighting a teenager tearing it up in Europe who's in the top 4 on the whole continent for one vital attacking metric.
Enter RB Leipzig star Yan Diomande.
But before we dive into the details, hit me with Diomande's essentials. You've got 20 seconds, let's have them.
Okay, Yan Diomande is 19 years old and was born in the Ivory Coast in November 2006. He's 5'11", right-footed, came through the DME Elite Sports Academy in Florida before joining Spanish side Leganés in January 2025. He made his senior debut against Real Madrid age 18 before RB Leipzig signed him for £20 million last summer. He earns around £35,000 a week, has 4.5 years left on his current deal, is represented by Ivorian agency Maxidal Management and has scored 3 goals in 9 senior Ivory Coast games since his October 2025 debut. Now, why should a Premier League club sign him?
He's a left winger who can also play on the right, and as we know these days in the Premier League, the goal burden usually falls most heavily on players in those positions just as much as the strikers. Think Saka again, Salah again and Jarrod Bowen, and Diomande's goal numbers and wider key attacking metrics show exactly why some of England's biggest clubs and Tottenham and Man United are desperate to sign him. At just 19, he's Leipzig's joint top scorer so far this season with Christoph Baumgartner, and he's joint 8th in the entire Bundesliga with 6 in 15 appearances, and only 10 of those have been starts. And that mightily impressive 0.61 goals per 90 minutes rate would put him 6th in the entire Premier League this season, and it's also the highest of any player at Leipzig who are performing very well this year and sit 3rd in the league. That goal scoring rate also compares extremely well against 2 left wingers widely regarded as the Premier League's best in Anthony Gordon and Antoine Semenyo, who of course, Dino, Man City have just paid £64 million for. His goals per 90 rate is more than treble Anthony Gordon's in the Premier League and 20% more than Semenyo's, despite having a slightly lower expected goals rate than both of them, which, Dino, tells us?
Well, it tells us that he's getting into almost as many attacking positions as Semenyo and Gordon, but when he gets there, he's far more clinical. And that rings true when we compare his shots and shots on target rate, as well as given that his 2.32 shots per 90 is almost identical to Semenyo's and slightly more than Gordon's, while his 1.31 shots on target per 90 eclipses Semenyo and is more than double Gordon's, who's not having the best domestic campaign.
Yeah, worth noting as well though that Gordon has scored 5 in 6 in the Champions League this season, so that's a goal scoring rate of 0.97 per 90 minutes, so it's still a worthwhile comparison, which is why we've used Gordon in this video. And of course, Manchester United and Tottenham are the most heavily linked with signing Diomande this month, and we can also see that he's outperforming their best left wingers too. We've used Matheus Cunha and Mathys Tel. We've kind of played in that position for their respective teams quite a bit, and the closest we could get to a like-for-like replacement. On goal scoring and the rates at which Diomande is converting expected goals into actual goals, he's outperforming both of them too. And although Cunha is taking about 1.5 more shots per 90 minutes, their shot on target rate is about the same, showing Diomande is less wasteful and more efficient when in dangerous attacking positions.
Yeah, tantalising stuff for fans of any Premier League clubs linked with him at the moment, Pugh. But what about the other key metrics for a winger? I'm talking chance creation, progressive passes, successful take-ons. Are they just as impressive?
Yeah, in short, mate, yes, they are. Yeah, Diomande's outperforming Gordon and Semenyo on assists at 0.2 per 90 minutes. And again, he's also proven to be the most efficient of the 3 at turning expected assists into actual ones, with his assist rate basically double his expected rate, while Semenyo is only outperforming his expected assist rate by about 50%, and Gordon is underperforming, providing less than half of the assists that his positions suggest that he should. And Diomande continues to be a star performer when we dig deeper and look at progressive passes, take-ons and goal creating actions. His 4.04 progressive passes per 90 rate exceeds Semenyo by 0.6 and is basically the same as Gordon's, yet he's also more than double both of their rates when it comes to take-ons at 4.24 per 90 minutes, which is absolutely insane, to be honest. I'm going to ask you then, Dino, how that's possible in a minute tactically, but he really is an attacking efficiency machine. And he's also the leader when it comes to goal creating actions. Tell everyone, Dino, just quickly what goal creating actions or GCAs are.
GCAs, wow. Well, goal creating actions track the 2 key actions prior to a goal going in. So that can be the final pass, known as that pre-assists, a dribble, or even drawing a foul from which your teammate scores from the set piece. So in layman terms, it tracks if a player is involved in that goal.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, have you been part of your team scoring, which sort of makes a lot of sense for layman's like me. You looked at me when you said layman's, which was a little bit offensive. That it does anyway. And Diomande is the standout with 0.81 league GCAs this season, more than double Semenyo's and 30% more than Gordon's, showing that he's such a valuable player to have on the pitch, even when he's not delivering that final goal or assist himself.
And all of that rings true as well when we compare Diomande to the men he would be replacing or challenging at Man United and Spurs, with neither Tel or Cunha outperforming him in any of the 5 key metrics we've just covered. With Cunha's progressive passing rate, the only stat that comes even close to Diomande's, suggesting his arrival at either team this month would give them an immediate boost.
Absolutely. Worth reiterating again, of course, that Leipzig are 3rd in the Bundesliga at the moment, while United and Spurs are struggling somewhat in the league so far this season. So their attacking numbers are going to be lower, but it certainly does tell you a story. So, Dino, all of this data seems to suggest that Diomande is sort of doing everything. He's absolutely elite at all of it. But how's he managing that tactically? Because it appears like he's running with the ball and doing the progressive passes and also being in the box to get the assists and the goals. Show us on the board. How's he managing all of it?
It's frightening, isn't it, really, when you talk about him in an attacking sense. And, you know, really this area of the field here is the first one we want to be keying. Often he wants to get 1v1 against the fullback, as they all do. But the key thing is that you can sometimes get another player doubling up, but he'll go around the outside in that sense. If he's not got a player there, he's cutting in and shooting. He goes both ways on either foot. And what I want to show particularly that he does well is that when teams get into a transitional phase, so broken play, we don't know which end the ball's going to end up, there's a tackle in midfield, he'll pick the ball up in an area like this and drive forward immediately. And that's what's so frightening about his pace and his directness when he does that. You know, progressive passes, progressive dribbles, he's way up there for all of those from that area of the field.
Yeah, he sort of like blasts past opponents, doesn't he, using that pace. Does that show as well, Dino, the fact that he's excelling on all of those metrics, that also his decision making is absolutely top quality because he knows when to pass, he knows when to run with it, and then he's sort of turning it into end product?
Yeah, it's incredible for a 19-year-old, and obviously, as you mentioned, they're high up in the league, so they are facing as well a lot of defences who might drop into a 5 and drop into a low block. So the fact that he's getting those numbers from a position where he might be facing 2, 3, maybe even 4 defenders is absolutely incredible. But it's that directness, first touch forwards, and that willingness to take on that is so impressive.
Now, Dino, Manchester United are being heavily linked with Yan Diomande. Just show me how you think he would fit into a United setup under new boss Michael Carrick.
Yeah, with Carrick taking over and we're moving away from that 3-4-3 Ruben Amorim system, they're set up there as you see them in that 4-2-3-1. And as I say, with being able to go both ways on either foot, he could play off the right, he could play off the left. But if United have Brian Mbeumo over there, this is a pace attacking person who can play off the left. And when you get to a position where you think, is he going to go outside or is he going to go inside? I'm a firm believer in that fullbacks then start to get to know that. So if he starts cutting in and shooting, you get an attacking fullback like Dorgu come up the outside, and then all of a sudden your attacking shape looks far more dangerous. So it's very exciting if you put him in a 4-2-3-1 shape for United or any of those Premier League teams, to be honest.
How does he compare then, Dino? Because United fans who are watching this will obviously think, well, we've got quite a lot of attacking players in that system at the moment. Cunha's been playing the left of the 3, but under Carrick, it's going to look different. If Diomande comes in, are they able to fit all of them in? How does he impact whether it's Bruno or Cunha in the other positions?
Yeah, I mean, it could be that then you move Matheus Cunha in to be the number 10 in that position there, and Bruno Fernandes goes back to playing in the double pivot that we think Michael Carrick will play, and we know know he prefers, and therefore you have Diomande in that left-hand side position. But what it does when you've got a player like that who can be flexible across the front three, it means that you can switch it up mid-game. If you start with a false nine or a different type of centre forward like Brian and Burmo, and you want to move to a Benjamin Šeško, you could then have Diomande delivering right-footed crosses from the right-hand side, beating players, or you can have him cutting in off the left on his right foot. So that flexibility that a direct player like him, who, as I say, can go both ways, is absolutely massive.
Now, if you think Diomande's numbers look pretty good compared with some of the Premier League's elite wingers, wait until you see where he stands on Europe's top table, particularly when it comes to dribbling and goal-creating action. So let's start with those, Dino. GCAs, as we're now calling them, on EFT, Essential Football Transfers. This table here shows the top 20 players across Europe's Big Five leagues so far this season, with the stipulation being they must have averaged a minimum of 30 minutes per game, sort of to make the data worthwhile and like valid. Diomande finds himself 20th in Europe, in the whole of Europe on the GCA metric, and among some pretty elite company like Harry Kane, Lamine Yamal and Kylian Mbappe, all of whom feature above him. Now, Dino, this is probably a good time to talk about the difference between the Premier League and the Bundesliga. Obviously, we've done a lot of comparison here so far. Producer Matt says it's a farmers' league. There's lots of those. 8 of the top 20 there all come or are playing in Germany at the moment. What do you think the difference is between the Prem and the Bundesliga when we're analysing all this data?
I mean, it's top half, bottom half in the Bundesliga, and that's important to note. I wouldn't go as far as to say farmers' league. There's some very, very good sides in there, as we've seen in the Champions League, but you can't compare the Bayern Munich's, RB Leipzig's and Borussia Dortmund's this world with the bottom half of that Bundesliga, and that's often where those games get skewed. The 5 and 6-0 games in the Bundesliga make those stats slightly massaged, but when you've got a player like Diomande doing it against the elite opposition as well, then really you're just filling your boots against those smaller clubs, aren't you? And that is changing the stats, but it continues to show that he can do it at all levels.
Yeah, so you would expect maybe a slight reduction when he comes to the Premier League, and it probably is a when, not if now, but he's still proving that he's able. You don't hit those numbers if you're only playing well against the smaller teams.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's at least a 50-50 split, and you have to do it in big games as well. And as I say, against defences who sit deep in numbers as well.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to that in a minute, Dino, because it's the same story as well when it comes to dribbling. The first of the 2 dribbling metrics we're going to look at is carries into the box, right? Diomande is leveraging the 14th highest rate across Europe's top 5 leagues at the moment. And once again, you can see the elite companies keeping in this list, with Kvaratskhelia at PSG, Vinicius at Real Madrid, of course, as well as Lamine Yamal at Barcelona. And finally, where Diomande is absolutely among the creme de la creme in European football is successful take-ons, Dino. He's 4th in the entirety of Europe's top 5 leagues at the moment. So just how high then, Dino, is his ceiling? How important will that be in the Premier League?
Well, look, he's right up there. He's very exciting. And you think about him being up there with Yamal and Doku, who we know are 2 of the very best dribblers around.
Yeah, exactly that. So why is excelling at take-ons and carries into the box so important then, Dino, if he does move to England?
Well, you protect the box, right? That's part of it. Most of the goals are scored from inside the area. 90% of strikers' goals scored from inside the box, and teams will drop back and sit in a very tight shape. We know how physical the Premier League is. So if teams start to sit with those 2 banks of 4 in front, often 5-4 in those positions, how do you get the ball into those areas? And that's, we said right at the top of the show, how important it is for a winger to drive into the box, get into those positions. And if he's being up there for take-ons, cutbacks and box entries, it's showing he's just excelling at all of those things. And of course, if he ends up going to an elite Premier League team, which we expect him to do, then it's a numbers game. And so you've got defences sitting deep. But if he can be 2v1 and still come out on top, and you've got an overload somewhere else, you end up with more players crashing the box from all over the place, and he's taking 2, maybe even 3 defenders out of the picture. That then raises him to an even higher level. That's what Doku does. That's what Semenyo is doing. And so that's what makes them so hard to defend against.
Yeah, absolutely, Dino. And we talk about it, don't we, a lot on Tactics Exposed, about how important it is for teams to create overloads elsewhere on the pitch. So if a player can do it on an individual basis on his own, particularly for those elite teams against compact defences, expenses. That is hugely important. So look, you get the picture now, right? Yan Diomande is really good and he'd improve any Premier League team if he joined them this month. So now it's time to feed the facts and figures to SunSport's fee finder to see how much it would cost for Man United, Spurs or any of the Premier League's big hitters to sign him in January.
Diomande is 19 years old, earns around £35,000 a week with 4.5 years left on his Leipzig deal and with no release clause.
That is very important indeed, Dino. Man United, Spurs, Liverpool and Bayern Munich have all been heavily linked, meaning Leipzig can dig their heels in for a mega fee.
Chelsea paid £55 million for Estevao, more than $50 million for Jamie Gittins last summer, while Man City just paid $64 million for Antoine Semenyo, which hint at the going rate for the exciting young wingers joining big Premier League teams.
Yep, that it does. In recent years, Leipzig have sold Benjamin Sesko to Man United for $74 million, Xavi Simons to Spurs for $52 million, Josko Gvardiol to City for $78 million, Dominic Szoboszlai to Liverpool for $60 million, showing they know how to maximise the value, Dean, of their Premier League-bound stars.
Yeah, and Diomande's agency is co-founded by former Leeds and Ivory Coast star Max Gradle, but this would be by far their biggest deal to date. Quite
a small agency. Okay, so taking all of that into consideration, SunSport's fee finder expects that a Premier League club would need to cough up around £70 million and a 6-year contract worth around £170,000 a week to land Diomande this month. Worth it, Dino?
Yeah, absolutely. Leipzig have got a real eye for young talent. We've seen that with that list there. And, you know, they've got this foolproof system of selling to Premier League clubs as well. And Diomande's stats and tactical profile prove he would give any team a short, mid and long-term boost.
Well, there you have it then. Europe's elite teams should be tripping over themselves to sign Diomande. It looks like they already are, to be honest. And that's why Yan Diomande is the essential transfer Man United, Spurs or any of the Premier League's big hitters must make this month. Please like this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and drop us a comment to let us know what you think about what we've had to say and who you want us to profile next. Don't forget, we'll be releasing a brand new episode of Essential Football Transfers every week until the window slams shut on February the 2nd. Make sure you join us.